right, everybody. Yeah, that intro was rough. I was messing with the volume. Um, you know, I'm sticking true to the production values that you've all come to know and love of this intrepid little channel. So, hey, good evening, everybody. It's Head Canon here. This is my once a month live stream. This is episode 6 of my second year of doing this, which means it's the 16th episode, and I've only got um, four more episodes left for the year because I end it in October and take November, December off, and then I'll reevaluate everything and see if a third season. So what I want to do tonight is I've got some amazing guests. Normally I only have like one guest on, but I really wanted to one disappeared, but I really wanted to have this conversation. So I'm just going ahead and bring everybody on again. I got Winford,
What's up?
and Chris from Sis 3D Arsenal. Thank you guys for being on. Winford and Lou, we're pretty much regulars on the Tuesday night Figure Fight Club over on Avi's channel. In fact, he probably couldn't do the show if it wasn't for us.
True. It's true.
Humble.
You'd get done a lot quicker.
Yeah, we would get done a lot quicker. And Chris, thank you. I know I see you in the chat all the time there, and I thank you for coming on with this. And this is a small channel. Nobody watches my show, so everybody can feel free to stay, and do whatever they want. I don't even trip the YouTube bots for stuff. So let me just, I know Chris, you just got on, but you just came back from Joe Fest, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, my camera moved. Yeah, okay. Joe Fest, I'm recovering still. So I did a lot of talking, and it was awesome though. Like, that was the first time I actually went to Joe Fest. It was also my first time as a vendor at a convention. So it was fun. Like, I was not expecting. I think my wife worked more than I did because I went out and had fun pretty much. Walked around with people, talked to people, and it was pretty much a social experience for me. And my wife did all the work. So thanks.
Yeah. But it was successful though. Yeah, it was worth
Yep. Yeah. Some people gave her the name of Mistress Arsenal, so kind of playing off Armada.
Mistress Arsenal, I like it. That's good.
So, and Lou, you didn't go, right? Did you go to Joe Fest?
A little bit.
Oh yeah, I went.
Oh,
yeah, Friday and Saturday. I left Saturday afternoon, like kind of late afternoon, but I wasn't going to do the whole 3 days.
Yeah.
Expense wise, it was kind of a last minute thing to go. So yeah, but I got to hang out with Chris and purchased a few things at the booth, and I'm representing today with the t-shirt. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah. But yeah, no, it was an absolute blast. It was a lot of fun. Everybody that was out there, it was ran into a lot of familiar faces and a couple new faces. It's weird now because I had people that came up to me. They're like, Lou, and I'm like, I don't know these people. And they're like, you're on Figure Fight Club. I'm like, oh wow, yeah. Yeah, it was a weird. I was, it's been that was unique, but met some really cool people. I met Candyman 5000, who's always in the chats.
Okay.
Yep, he came up and talked with him for a bit. Nice guy. Hung out with 6'10" Yojo Daddy, who is 6'10". He is a tall man.
So it's just not just a clever.
Oh no, there's nothing. Yeah, it's real. It's real.
I've seen some pictures of him with like people I know how tall they are. I'm like, oh yeah, he's legit 6'10".
Yeah, I think I come up with his armpit.
Him at the end of July.
Oh yeah, he was talking about
the Gadsden Collector Con at the end of July near me. Mm-hmm. I know he's supposed to be there.
Yep, he's planning to. Yeah, he's going to look for you. He told me. But yeah, no, absolutely great. Got to hang out and talk with Mikey and John, his dad, for a bit from JMK Custom Works. And Mikey's another guy that, like, in real life,
Yeah.
He is just as nice, just as cool as you see on the screen. I love that guy. He's a good dude.
Yeah, I loved meeting him and his dad at DFW. I had his dad on my show last year because we're, him and I are around the same age, so we have a lot of touchstones with that. So it was great to actually meet them in person, hang out, and I've invited Mikey on my show. Just haven't got. He was at Joe Fest when I sent a message, so I'm sure once he digs out from underneath that, I got him. I actually have him. I bought a grifter from Wildcats, Image Comics, ahead from Craniac Studios, and I don't have talent to paint, and so I brought it with me to DFW and gave him some money, and so it's like on his list of things to paint. So I'm really looking forward to getting that back, so I can put on this beachhead body I got sitting over here.
There you go, nice.
For that, but yeah,
Very cool.
Midwestern people.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep.
So,
Yep.
So
yeah, no.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No,
so
go ahead.
Kind of what I wanted to do is I don't want to take too much. I try to keep this show at about an hour's length, but if it goes on a little bit longer, it's completely up to you guys. But kind of this idea came to me is on Tuesday nights with Figure Fight Club before I was kind of kicking this idea around with Lou and Winford. Because we're slightly older than a lot of the folks that are on the show, and we are from the generation where all the things that people are buying now, we were there in the beginning of it.
Yeah, we had the originals.
And so what I'm getting to notice is in various chats on shows and on that show, as people are talking, and that's kind of I call myself headcanon because I come up with the headcanon of how things should work. If y'all been seeing my Instagram, the Skyhawk project, I'm doing more on the G.I. Joe Skyhawk as if it was a real vehicle. But also too, I come from the generation of there was no internet, so everything that you learned, you had to keep it in your head and to recall it. So sometimes I'll tell people drop information on stuff that people had no idea of because they didn't know. And I realize that we have a lot of knowledge among us of how things really were back then and how it shaped what's come today. And I think it's kind of gotten lost a little bit, with not just toys, but with music and movies and culture in general. And so the idea was kind of, to get some folks together to kind of talk about certain topics, and I remember when we were putting this together, I kicked around some topics, but then decided this kind of really needs to be get to know us, kind of thing. And then maybe if we decide to do this again in the future, then we can pick a topic, that a lot of people aren't talking about and kind of focus in on that. Before we came on, we were talking about at Joe Fest, they revealed the Big Bad Workshop revealed the helmet of Fury Force. And we kind of know the story behind that, but I was excited because it was Cold War era figures, which is these are like I tell folks on TV and in movies, whenever they did military things, it's that post Vietnam Cold War era, the uniforms, the weapons, and all that style was there. And then I know. I joined the Marine Corps in 1990, and we were still using a lot of that in that transition stuff. So that was like, oh, this is great. This is the stuff I want to see. It's an unexplored era. But then when you show it to people that are, that millennial generation and further, they think it's all boring and it doesn't make any sense and it's stupid. So just kind of. So I guess kind of like I said, I want this kind of just be an easygoing, and we'll jump around from topic to topics. So kind of, so we're in an amazing time as collectors because there's a lot of things available to us now, even though they're kind of regurgitating things we grew up on, but that weren't available. And like Chris, you with what you do, as kids, a lot of the stuff that you make with your company was stuff in our imagination we had to fill in the background. You had a base. You're using matchbooks and all toys.
I made it out of cardboard and styrofoam back then. So
yeah.
popsicle sticks and whatever you can find, twigs in the backyard,
shoe boxes. That's how I built my bases.
Styrofoam for the Echo base,
That's yeah.
So was that kind of, what was kind of your impetus for because gosh, it's so amazing what you do with 3D printing, nowadays. But what made you think that, okay, this is kind of my niche, is filling in all the background stuff?
Well, it wasn't me that decided. It was people in the GI Joe community that decided it, pretty much. Because like I was doing it for myself, and so like I was doing photography for stuff for myself, and like I was just, okay, well, I'm making a crate and for myself and making some backdrops and stuff, and I post the pictures, and people were like, "Where'd you get that at?" And I'm like, "Well, I made it." Like, can I have it? It's like,
how much for 30? How much for 10?
And that's kind of how it started. And I started doing the file. I started putting the files out there for people, and they're like, "I don't have a 3D printer. Can you print it for me?" I was like, well, I have to charge you for it, and that's kind of how it started. And it just came from necessity, I guess, because there wasn't stuff. And now there's everybody. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people doing it now. And that was great at Joe Fest. That was one of the things I loved about Joe Fest, was meeting. In some way, the people are my competitors, but I don't really see it that way. It's kind of like being somebody on your team, another wide receiver on your team that's better than you, and you're striving to be, or they have a different skill set than you, and you're striving to improve your skill set to be on an equal par. So you're both number one receivers. You know what I mean? Even though that's not everything, but so, and also and I've told Lou this many times, there's a couple people that I try not to make the same things that they make, because I want everybody to be, prosperous, and I don't want to try not to step on it, because I'm hoping they're respecting me the same way to some degree, but sometimes it's very hard, because I want to make something for myself for a photo. And then if I think other people want it, I, post it and let them purchase it or download it and make it themselves.
Right. Make it available.
Lots of people make barrels and crates, but they don't all look the same. Everybody's got their own little spin to it. So you actually want that when you're doing photography, so it doesn't all look cookie cutter. Because when you go to
that's why I make so many different crates.
Mm-hmm.
I make like 5 different crates, and that's why, because I don't want, if I just made one crate, it would look kind of over time, it would look kind of weird that they're all exactly the same.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
I'm starting to see a lot of now the 3D printer folks that we're doing like what you're doing. You're starting to push into now vehicles.
Yep.
And I think that's going to start. They're going to, as they focus, because from my understanding, 3D printing it's still a process, and everything's based on time. But once you start going into like larger projects, then some of those smaller things that built you have to stop doing those. So that's my.
Well, that's what's hard. Yeah, that's what's hard about it. I want to make vehicles. There's a couple things that I've kind of toyed around with, but it's so hard because every time I make something new, so one, I have to continue making money, right? So every time I release something new, people come buy it. So like it's hard to not release something for a couple months while I work on a big vehicle, because the sales would die down on my site. Because I've pretty much learned I have to post something on social media like every 3 days or something, or my sales start to go down. And it's like science almost now, because like if I don't post a new post like 3 days, my sales will kind of trickle off. And then if I don't post like a new item within a certain period of time, the sales start to trickle off. So it's very interesting that way. But I mean, it's also not all about the sales, but it does keep it going, because the machines cost stuff and the materials and things like that. And I try to keep my prices pretty as low as possible, and because I want to make it affordable for people too. And I was talking to Matt from Mo's Mind at the convention, because he makes some. I don't know if you guys have seen his stuff. You guys have seen the Atlas.
I've seen some of this.
Like it's always throwing the Atlas in your face, because knocking it like a baby and stuff. He makes some really great vehicles, and I was talking to him about some of my ideas, and he was like, "Man," like my apprehension about doing it. He's like, "Man, you just go for it. You want it for yourself. Just go for it and do it." So I think I told you, like, I think it was whenever I was on Figure Fight Club. I don't know when that was, December, November last year. Like,
Wow,
I want to make a 12-inch scale version of the Troop Transport Kenner toy for Star Wars. I think it's going to be pretty big because I want to make it accurate, screen accurate, and like with the they can actually stand inside of it and they can go out the side of it. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. That was one of my
favorites. I loved that thing. R2D2, where are you?
Yeah.
Remember that? R2D2, where are you?
I am.
Well, it goes into this idea, like, so when all these properties like G.I. Joe and Transformers and all this stuff was coming out when we were younger, there was lore and there was world building, but it didn't come pre-built out of the box like things are. So you kind of had to wait for that next week for the next episode, or next month for the comic, or every I remember especially Hasbro, they would they would, in the vehicles, they would have the toy catalog, the little catalog. Yes. And so it was, it came out, a new one came out every 6 months. So you had the summer release that would show you the previous fall's stuff and the new stuff for spring, summer, and then it would switch over to have the spring, summer, and the fall. And so you would like open it up and you would see something that was coming out and you had no idea what this thing was. So you're filling it in with your imagination and stuff like that. And I know I have 4 kids, 3 of them in their early 20s and one of them is still a teenager. And they're a lot of their stuff, all their lore and world is pre-built out all the way when they get it. And so I found them, though, getting, when they discover something like when I had as a kid, or when they started looking at retro stuff and they started looking at they discover it and they dig through it like we did, but it's all available to them now. Like they could go on and look at the wiki page of anything and it'll tell you everything. So we kind of had to build our own. It kind of really,
you had to be more patient.
Patient and imagination had to be key.
Yeah, because like I said, you buy that Ram motorcycle and it had the catalog in it. You had no idea when that stuff was coming out.
Right. You were just hoping you'd see it in the store.
It's released on December 3rd, and that's when the pre-order is going to open up, and you're going to pre-order it, and it's going to be at your house by February. It's like, no, you didn't know when it was coming out, and you had to look for it. You had to actively search for it until you found it.
Well, it's crazy. Like, I remember seeing Star Wars figures for the first time, like the first line. I remember exactly the day I saw them. It was at Hill's department store. They were on an end cap. My grandfather, I lived with my grandparents at the time. He let me pick 2 of them. So I picked C-3PO and R2D2. I had to have been 5 maybe at the time. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Like, I remember we went home. I was playing with R2D2 and C-3PO. And I told my grandfather they were lonely and needed friends, and we went back to the store and bought the rest of the wave. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember trying to convince my dad that for my birthday they got me the Dragonfly helicopter with Wild Bill, and when I saw Airborne in the store, because he was in the cockpit with them, I was like, Dad, I need this guy because he can't fly without him. So it's hey, Stu.
What's up,
Stu? And that was that thing too, is that not every everything was available to us. I mean, there was a few kids, and we all know who those kids were. That they got everything in the Sears catalog. For sure. Birthday, but we had to pick and choose. So you had to make some life and death choices when it came to what figures you got, and hopefully they were there when you went there, or else you just had to make do with something else because you didn't want to leave empty-handed. I mean, marketing had gotten us really good. So, but I think that's kind of one of the things that we've lost is that anticipation. And since we kind of know everything that's coming out when it comes out, I think it gives us too much time to really focus on the negative of things and not really appreciate. I'm not saying all be everything's rainbows and roses, because I've got some. I just got this the other day. And I posted on Instagram. I was like, It's like this is a perfect example of Hasbro coming so close, but then they flub it on the details. Whereas most people would look at the flaws and say this is a piece of crap, and it's like or then you got the people that see no flaws in it at all. I think that's something we've kind of lost a little bit is that the ability to be have a objectivity about about these things.
I can see that. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Hey, real quick, can we just want to address Hot Rod in the chat there. He had a good one here. Talking about it, he said, I think I appreciated my Cobra Troopers more when I had 2 and had to kill the same 2 over and over. Snake Eyes was infiltrating my comfort maze. Oh, dude. Yep, absolutely. It's like, bring them back in, resurrect them, bring them back in. You got your 2.
So
different times.
I showed my kids like an old G.I. Joe cartoon one day. I think it was like one of the first ones. And I noticed a pattern of because how limited animation was. Is that usually like when you had a single Joe and you had to fight some Cobras, there was only like maybe 1 or 2 of them. And I was telling them like, they Cobra only had these were, and so I made up this whole story about how their names are Steve and Rick, and they're and they're they're the most incompetent troopers. But Cobra Commander thinks they're the best because he always has them doing stuff. And so usually that in the background, there's these 2 guys doing it, or they're guarding the hiss or something like that. And then when we were watching The Force Awakens, when they had the 2 stormtroopers walking in when Kylo was like tearing up the thing, and they kind of do the backup. I was like, that's Sir Steve and Rick. That's the 2 guys that do everything. And then it's funny because I'm a big fan of the Venture Brothers. And that's kind of how, if y'all seen the Venture Brothers?
Oh yeah, the G.I. Joe episode of the Venture Brothers is awesome. Yeah, was it Ship Shape? Ship Shape, was that what he's called?
No, it was Shore Leave.
Shore Leave, that's right. Yeah. The shipwreck character.
But that's a show that only certain people get all the references because we kind of grew up on that, and and I tell folks we were still watching Scooby-Doo reruns in the 80s as if they were new episodes. Yeah, because they were just recycling
right before Oprah Winfrey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oprah Winfrey came on right after. I don't know if that was the same for you, but that
sounds about right. Yeah, because that was when it was time to shut the TV off.
Yeah. Well, here in Florida, it was just Saturday morning cartoons, and then about 11 it would switch over to wrestling or roller derby, depending upon the channel. So it was.
It would switch over to, of all things, Glow, Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, USA.
That was weird. On late at night, so as a young man, I wasn't able to watch that because it was after bedtime in my area. So
okay, no, it was Saturday mornings in my area, believe it or not, which was odd. What are you guys watching? Women's wrestling? My God, what are you watching? Oh.
I don't know, but I like it.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what it is, but there's something about it that I'm enjoying a lot. Yeah. Well, we were talking about the inconsistencies, or in the. I needed to bring this up just because it was something I watched the other day. Hasbro's been doing for Yojo June, their YouTube channel has been showing just the ongoing. You can just watch live, jump in, and whatever episode of G.I. Joe is there. So it was when I popped it in, it was part 2 of the Synthoid episode with Shipwreck, when they had the Synthoids and they had him convinced that he was living in the future and all that kind of thing. And there was one, I never caught this error before, but I saw it right there and I said, oh my God. Most of the episode, Cobra Commander, practically I think the entire episode, he's wearing his hood. And there's one scene when he's arguing with the twins and he's yelling at them and everything else. And it's going back and forth and it's hood, twins, hood, twins, hood, twins. Next shot, he's walking out of the room wearing his helmet. And then it went right back and hood again. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, they messed that up.
Well, there's an episode in there somewhere too where Beachhead did not have on his balaclava.
Yeah. Yep. Beachhead's
completely unmasked, unmasked.
Yeah. Yep. Just for a single frame or whatever it was. Yep. That was hilarious.
I'd take a drag on a cigarette for a minute there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Off screen, they had to go back to them.
well, and the thing is that we didn't have VCR. I mean, some people did, but it wasn't like a big thing. And
Yeah.
they didn't make
Yeah,
this stuff. This was just, to them, it was all disposable. So, nobody was like scrutinizing frame by frame, all this stuff, because it was made for kids, and that's
Right.
that's kind of like, I always badmouth the cartoon because of those inconsistencies. So I was a big fan of the comic growing up, and my wife and I were having a conversation, and I'd probably been diagnosed with something as a child, because that's the inconsistencies in the cartoon would drive me nuts. So it's but I watched it and overall just enjoyed it. And that comes back to the thing that we're kind of drives me nuts nowadays, that people will make definitive statements about the canon of GI Joe or something like that based on something that happened in the cartoon, and it's like, it's not, or
I mean, you can base strictly on the cartoon, just not
Yeah.
on the rest of the media,
Well,
right?
it's-
yeah,
I've seen this discussion several times, especially kind of more here recently. There are basically two schools of thought. You've got the ones that are like, the comic is the end all be all because
Yeah.
that's what they knew. They didn't
Mhm.
care if the cartoon, didn't watch the cartoon. Then you've got the ones that never knew about the comics, so all they know is the cartoon.
Mm.
And those don't always overlap in a good way
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
there are, like, I'm saying, there are so many differences between the two. Which one's right? It depends on which one you want to be right.
Yeah, I was a comic guy or comic kid, but like I accepted the cartoon because it was just something to extend the enjoyment of GI Joe, and
Yeah.
like someone like Thundercats, for instance. Like I was talking to somebody about Thundercats and He-Man recently, and I tried to go back and watch I can watch GI Joe. It's not the best.
Yeah.
For some reason, Thundercats, He-Man, I cannot watch it at all. Like I
It
tried
is so hard.
yeah, and I can only Thundercats. I only got through like 6 episodes, and I could not do it anymore.
Yeah. I could see. Yeah, I think GI Joe was pretty well made for what it was with Sunbow, not DC or DI Dick.
Yeah.
That's a
Deke. Deke was.
Don't be a
It
dick.
was a train wreck.
Yeah, well, I didn't even know that existed until I was an adult, because when it came out, I was completely
Same.
removed from GI Joe.
Going back, I've tried to go back and watch them, and I've not made it too far. Yeah, I remember a few of the episodes, but again, like you said, it was kind of about that time. It's like, oh well, look, girls and other things are more
Yeah.
important.
Exactly. Yeah, and I grew up on both the comic and the cartoon, kind of similar to you, Chris, and I mean, I obviously recognize the massive difference between the two, and of course, the comic was so Snake Eyes heavy, especially during the time frame that I was reading it, and the cartoon barely even touched on Snake Eyes. He was a background character.
Yeah.
And Duke was a completely different thing in both of them. So I could kind of, I was more or less melding the two in one way or another. I'd take parts from what I liked of each of them for my own lore, and just kind of went with that. It was the easiest way to do it. But obviously the cartoon was definitely for kids. The comic was there was a lot more. It was a lot more depth and a lot more adult themed, or at least
people died in the comic.
Right.
Everybody went home at the end of the day in the cartoon.
Right. I mean the whole arc in the very beginning with Quinn was so good, but so shocking at what, 5 years old or whatever I was. I think it was 7, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was, but and then Quinn never showed up in the cartoon, and I always hoped he would, because that was a character that I think was, missed, so to speak.
I can't believe they haven't made a figure of him yet. Well,
no.
Yeah. Classified, yeah.
I hope they do soon. I hope maybe next year.
Well, I'm halfway through the G.I. Joe Compendium number 3, which I'm glad they're gathering those, because I used to have all the issues, but then over time and space, I'll lose them all, and then trying to track down and people just like, I think I don't see the love for it in the collecting sphere of it. I think people think they're going to make a lot of money because they have a complete run, or they got this issue or that issue. So which drives prices up on stuff. So I'm glad they're doing the compendiums again. And but I'm in the middle of 3, and it's now getting into like around issue 90 is when the big turn into all snake eyes all the time starts. But then as I was reading, because I love how how they're doing it, is that they're they have a regular issue and then a special missions issue would be whatever month that came in, or if it's like sometimes they overlap the stories, and so the specials are coming out in order with the issues. And the one that I remember as a kid that hit me, and it hit me again, was the special missions where the October Guard dies in it. And just how they went out, like I was just like that. I found myself tearing. I'm a 53-year-old man, and I found myself tearing up again at horror show dying and Colonel Brekov, realizing he's dead, and they're driving the truck of explosives, and then Charge and Stormovic dying while throwing the switches to the train, and it was just hey, here's the enabler.
Yeah, there he is. What's going on?
There he is, right there.
Good to see you, man.
But I think that was kind of the stuff that made us invest so heavily into these properties. And again, it's like especially like in my when I'm driving my car, I have Sirius XM radio, and my top channels are lithium, for all that 90s alternative rock, and then I've got like the 90s and the 80s and the 70s channel all plugged in, 1 through 5. And as I'm going through, like some of these old songs coming on, I go, man, I cannot believe, how good these songs were. How, and not like as an old timer thing, but just how the music was put together, and just all these, like everything had to be crafted. And that's kind of the way I feel like, the comics were for G.I. Joe and a lot of other things that, because when you start looking at the toys, that we had back then, we love them, but they were not all that great compared to what we have today.
Yeah.
Oh no.
As far as detail and things like that, absolutely.
Well, that's technology at the time,
right?
Would probably be fairly equivalent to what we have now.
Yeah.
I mean, G.I. Joe had innovation throughout the years. Even the small things like the swivel arm battle grip was an advancement. Then the ball joint neck down the road. And then with the bat, of course, they introduced the detachable hand thing. Yeah. I wish that I'd always hoped that was going to lead to swivel wrists at some point. Never happened for us, but that was one thing that I always hoped for every time. Yo, Joe, it's good to meet you, brother.
Yeah.
So good to see you and hang out with you, man. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to hang out. Very fun. Replay squad days. Thank you. It's I think some of the differences in the 80s and two things.
Yeah.
Our generation can't let go of our IPs. We can't. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know yet. I can't tell you. But our generation is taking our IPs that we grew up with and saying, okay, now how can I make this what I always wished it would have been when I was a kid? Because a kid, we used our imaginations, whatever it didn't have, such as the swivel wrists and whatnot, we just added our own imagination into it. Transformers were the same way. Transformers as a kid, alt mode was always good. Robot mode always sucked.
Yeah.
It did. Yeah, there was no articulation. It barely looked like the robot a lot of the time. It wasn't great. Now we're building these things up where both modes are looking phenomenal. It's because that's what we wanted, right? So there was a lot more imagination, I think, in the 80s and 90s, and even in the 70s, utilized in the creation of these things and everything. And it was new, right? It was first time thinking of it. And granted, again, Star Wars blows up, then everybody in the world has to have their Star Wars. So you see a lot of sci-fi and so forth. G.I. Joe the same way, even Masters of the Universe. Masters of the Universe, of course, kind of started out, I think the hope and the desire was it was going to be Conan, but since they didn't get it, they said, okay, we'll go this route. So, but it was all the imagination of these people that were, trying to figure out what they wanted to build. And I think today, I think to a degree, instead of imagination with a lot of these, it's a regurgitation with the modern sculpt thought process instead of really creating something all that new. And I think there's a little bit of a fear of creating something new sometimes. I hate to say it, but and maybe I'm narrow-minded for it, but I can't even think of anything new these days. So, new twists on an old thing, yeah, we can do that, but a new property completely is very difficult to do. Not many have been able to do it successfully. But at the same time, with that, we're starting to see that creeping in, but it's still borrowing from the past. Savage Crucible's doing their thing, Monster Force, Big Bad Workshop, and all their creations. It's pulling from the past, but trying to put
another new
some newness to it. Yeah, it's still a new twist. Yeah. Right.
Well, I think that's everything is just a new twist. I mean, I don't think there's much original,
anymore. Yeah.
Original for decades. That's like so you look at at television, you look at a 70s punk, and it was a lot of it was grounded in 50s guitar riffs.
Yeah, surf rock. Sure. Yeah.
So it's kind of like everybody changes things a little bit, and I kind of want what you're saying about the having things that the way we wish they would have been.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that's kind of why there's so much criticism of things that instead of looking at is this better than what we had before, that it's not this idealized perfect form that we would envision the property as?
I think so.
Making
just to complain. Like that's what I think. Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, then too, you've also kind of got another, again, back to that kind of two schools of thought. So you've got the older guys like us that lived through the original. So we've got that emotional attachment to that original, whether it was that 5 POA Star Wars figure or holy crap, they move at the elbows G.I. Joe figure. That was it. That's what we've got attachment to. So the companies now have to run that fine line of we need something new, hot, and sexy to get all the new collectors in, but at the same time try not to alienate the older collectors that are stuck in nostalgia. They've got to find that line, and they either alienate this one, or alienate both. They're never going to make everybody happy. They're always going to make somebody mad. So they're trying to make as few people mad as possible to whichever way they think will get them the most money.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, these companies don't give a shit about what they're putting out as long as it sells.
Yeah. I just tell everybody, I can't make everybody happy, but I can make everybody equally unhappy.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of it too that we put up with is when people do raise the issues, this idea that it's like nobody's honest enough to come out and say, listen, this is why we have to do stuff this way. They're still treating me like I'm a 10-year-old kid that didn't know all these things. That was going on behind the scenes. Like how they had to get certain things done, and why we had to do reuse on things. And they weren't going to let us do this and all that stuff. So if you're, my thing is, if you're selling products to adults, then you got to treat adults like adults. And
I do think some of the creative teams for these manufacturers do have passion about it and do care what they're outputting. It's just they're getting shut down by the number crunchers. And watching interviews and talking to some of the creative people, like for Star Wars, for example, they have a passion about recreating stuff and doing accurate stuff, but they're limited to what they can new sculpts they can do and materials they can use and the budget that they're given for each figure.
Yep. Well,
we know that now, but we know as adults those restrictions exist and they're real things.
Right.
But there just doesn't seem to be this feeling of giving those folks that deserve margin because of that, and we just keep demanding because this is not our perfect toy yet.
Yeah.
Right. Well, here's the thing too. Back then, it was almost the Wild West in the industry, in the toy industry, and even in corporations, right? It wasn't the way it is today. This like Chris was saying, the structure. So the creators were given more leeway back then than they are today. Whereas the creators, I think, still have the imagination and the desire, but there's a lot more holding them back from up top. The like you said, the number crunchers. So it prevents that from happening. I'll use an example. The Hooded Cobra Commander's coming out this year, right? Looks amazing. Well, that Hooded Cobra Commander's been sitting on the shelf since at least 2023 because it was designed by Corey. And Corey hasn't been with the company since 2022, 2023. So, it's there. So obviously the desire was there to do it, right? And it was held back and not allowed for whatever reason it was.
And it's still not the one I want.
I know, me too. All I want the mail away, right? I want that, the original mail away hooded.
But DFW, I got to talk to some of the original designers of the line. And these guys, when they would do stuff, you got to make a toy and you got to make it playable. That was all the things you had to do. And you had the design restrictions of the manufacturing process. But these guys would pour over, military books and research things and try to get things right. Whereas the designers that, when they talk about the stuff, especially at Hasbro, is these guys are just Googling images and whatever pops up, and they have no, like one of them kept, it was driving me nuts. And I guess just my version of the TISM I have, referring to a knife sheath as a holster, and stuff, So I don't see, I see them, and I think they really want it and have a passion for it and they want to make a good product. And you're always going to have manufacturing restrictions. And Chris, probably, the things you make, there's times where you have to come to the realistic fact that because of the materials or the process or the time, there's certain things that you would want to do that you can't. So you've got to find ways to make it work. But like I said, just the amount of time and effort and knowledge to research things they didn't know, was impressive. And I think, some of it is that some of these designers nowadays, it's just I don't know where I don't know where I'm going with that thought.
Well, with the research, they've gotten lazy. So like I said, back then when they were doing stuff, you had to go to a library, you had to find the encyclopedias, you had to find the reference material, you had to physically go hunt for that stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now they open up their computer, they open up their laptop, tappity tap. Okay, that third picture from the right, use that one.
Well, I mean, somebody that does research to create stuff, it's not always easy with Google either. Like, and I can see why they take the cuts, because, like, I did those tank rounds recently, and I looked. I don't even know how many web pages, because I like to get dimensions and things like that, and they don't always, like, a lot of the web pages don't always have all the dimensions. So they might have like the overall length of it, but they don't necessarily have the diameter, and the diameter changes as it goes up, to the end. And it's not always easy. So I would say for those tank rounds, I probably visited like 50 different web pages and I looked at a couple different manufacturing manuals or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's kind of going back to the point, that, like I said, we came up in a generation of card catalogs and, having to do research on stuff. So to me, the hunt for knowledge is kind of a precious thing, which is why I feel I get so upset when people get things that are simple to me but wrong type of deal, because we cared about those details,
right?
In that, and accuracy mattered. Whereas I don't think now it's, and I can't blame all that on corporate pressure, because corporate pressure has always existed. They think Hasbro's bad today. They were just as bad back then. Mattel was just as bad back then about the bottom line and cost.
And that's exactly why Snake Eyes exists, because they cut costs to make him.
They ran out of money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that line was an experiment. They didn't know it was going to be good, which is why everything was 2 different bodies and outfits with 3 different heads painted.
Yeah. Very, very basic. Yeah,
I bought 2 G.I. Joe figures the first time I ever bought any. It was Stalker, because I love the camouflage on Stalker, and Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Because they were the 2 that were different.
Yeah, they were the most different in the entire wave, for sure. Yeah. Flash was my first one.
Yeah.
Flash was my first, just because for me it was the gateway to military from Star Wars. So Flash had a laser cannon. So I was like, all right. I know my dad being an Army guy rolled his eyes at that. He's like, there are no lasers in military. I'm like, but it's real, Dad. No, it's not. But it's got a name. No, it's not. But
I want to say short fuse was my first one.
Yeah, and see, that's a good one. I loved short fuse. Another, and I may be getting way off track here, and I apologize, but again, my dad was a model creator, painter, and all that kind of stuff. That was his hobby. He's an Army guy, so when we got short fuse, he's like, well, he explained to me how the mortar works, and he's like, I could make it work properly for you. Okay, Dad. So we went down to his workshop, cut that thing up. He replaced the top end of it with a metal rod and kind of stuck it in there.
Yeah.
And then, because we cut off the section, the tip basically. So then he hollowed it out so it was a ring, and it fit on the metal. I still have it too, by the way. I got to go dig it out. It's in the closet. So it fits on the metal rod. So when the mortar is there, and you've got that. Oh God, watch what we're doing here. Be careful how you're doing what you're doing, Lou. But so that more exactly.
Like I said, no, even YouTube doesn't watch my channel, so
right. Yeah, but you never know. A kid might run into it and then be like,
Well, we're a generation that figured out the steps MacGyver left out of the things that he.
Right. Because basically, you plant it in the ground, and when you drop the mortar in, it will kind of come out. Yeah. And so there's that slide right there. And so he created it so it could slide like that. He fixed it all up for me. So I had a very unique one as a kid.
Cool.
And all my friends were jealous.
We weren't that fancy. We just used lead pipe, black cat firecrackers, and marbles.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Yeah.
So you made a shotgun.
Yeah, basically.
No, Dad didn't fix the Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Boba Fett remained with no firing anything. Of course, back then actually, no, I can't say that. We did know originally that Boba Fett was supposed to have the rocket fire.
Yeah.
The mail away was listed as the rocket fire.
Because we saw the mail away, like I said, that was there was an anticipation of it. We saw. And so we came up with a very good, really, I think it was the golden age of toys and intellectual property and. A lot of stuff, but just, and I think the longevity of it is more than just that we're adults now, we have money to buy the stuff and it comes back. A lot of the stuff has lasted, and, a lot of modern things that have inspired, like, movies are trying to tap into some of the stuff that, that everything goes through cycles, and they reach back into, I think the whole new, the fact that, all these big studio movies aren't doing very well, but these independent YouTube guys, doing horror films and stuff like that, when I saw that, I said that just reminds me of the 90s indie boom. That you had all these guys working outside doing things that people really wanted to see and like and innovative. And I said, unfortunately, in a few years, studios will start buying these guys, all these independent guys up, and start offering these YouTubers big money and we'll go through that again. And then, and I think we're seeing that in music now too.
We've been seeing it in music for a long time. Yes.
Like I told my kids, it's like, you don't understand that, you used to craft an entire album back then, because that's how it was sold. It was sold as an album. So these guys put a lot of work into it, and not everybody just trying to do one single to get a YouTube, to go viral on YouTube. And there's a few bands out there, some of the ones my kids love, that understand that, and they like wait for now. There's a few bands they wait for albums to come out. When are they going to drop the album, because they've crafted a thing that fits all together and looks. It all comes into cycles, but I think in the meantime, like a lot of people like think this is all new stuff again. So it's
again, the whole again, corporations will find something that is doing well, latch onto it, and now it's time to homogenize it, compact it into its little box. So now we can sell that. That's the sole, existence of the corporation. How do we package it and sell it? Package, sell. So everything that starts out as a creative thing, art, becomes a product, and over time, it starts to lose the art because it's now just another cog in the machine.
Yeah,
and it goes on, cycle after cycle after cycle. And it always will to some extent. And the artist will always be either bought out or squashed, because if you're not making the money, you might not be able to continue to make the art, right? Because you do need the money, because you got to eat. And that's been since the end of time. And I feel, if we're talking music, I feel for musician kids today. It's there is potential if you can get the social media backing and be able to do it yourself. But the way they're used, as far as the corporations, the labels and whatnot, it's disgusting. I mean, I had friends in bands that I had, used to be in a band, toured. There were 2 bands here in Atlanta that were pretty big, friends of ours, that they got signed. And one of them was, the entire band was fired except for the singer. Now that they're signed, they don't own themselves anymore. The label does. And the label says, we don't want your band, we just want the singer. So they kept the singer, got rid of the rest of the guys in the band. Oh, the guys that helped write and create all this stuff are no longer a part of it because the label says so, right?
Oh, yeah. I saw the movie Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, it's not far. It's not far. Yeah, it is truth. It is truth. And the other band that got signed, they were flown out to LA. They had I'm trying to remember, I think it was Max Norman was the producer, who was a big producer for new metal and metal back then. They set him up with him to produce their album. They recorded. They were out there for 3 months working on this thing. Album was shelved for a year and a half. Cut down after a year and a half. It was cut down to an EP, 4 songs, released with no backing or anything else. The band was broken up by the time the album was released. They were gone. It was done because they didn't own it anymore. It was sad.
Well, I think it's always fascinating when I see things, and this is one of the good things that YouTube has brought us, and which I look at stuff like YouTube and like smartphones as these are the things we were promised as kids the future was going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Except you remember in Aliens when they're making video calls, with the AT&T and Blade Runner and stuff like that, and so we have all that now. It makes it so one of the things I've been watching is there's a YouTube channel called Drumeo. Have you ever watched that?
Well, the drummers, where they have the drummers. Wait.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to sell their app, but then they have drummers that I hadn't heard
the song that they're about to play.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And they play the song without the drum beat, and the drummer has to kind of make it up, and they hear it, and it's like stuff. It's like just realize how technical it is now. But a lot of folks are these I like when they get like these young wonderkin drummers, like in their teens and stuff like that, and they ask have you ever heard Russia's XYZ, and then they're like, no, we haven't heard that. And so they play it, and then they're getting the drum beat, and then they'll play it with the regular drum, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's so it's so amazing.
Well, one of the ones I love on that one is John Stamos. If you'd ever seen him, I think I don't remember the song. I think it was either Chili Peppers or Foo Fighters. I can't remember which. And he was so extremely close to the actual drum beat. And I didn't even realize how good a drummer he was. I mean, this was, he's what? I think he's in the 70s now. I don't know, but he killed it. I was like, geez.
It's hard to believe that John Stamos hasn't heard like every Chili Peppers song.
Well, yeah, I know, right?
Like when they play a song, it was like, how have they never heard this song before?
Yeah, and maybe some of the, but then when they get like some genre drummers, that's all they've been in that genre, and they don't hear it. But like I said, it's like these younger drummers that are coming out, and they hear songs that is on my playlist, or I'll even like go to YouTube and search out the video, to play them when I'm feeling a little nostalgic and weepy eyed. And that's what I'll do with my sons all the time. I'll sit there and they'll be walking through the room, and I'll say, hey, hold on a second, have you ever heard this song? And I'll pop on a song and play, and oh man, that's awesome. So, but then I have the moments too. As I remember when back when Tron Legacy came out, and my boys loved that movie. That was great. And then I went out and got this was before streaming was just becoming a thing. But I went out and got the DVD of the first Tron, and they watched that, and they're like, "What is this crap?" And I was like, "You don't understand. When we saw this in a movie theater, this blew our minds." Yeah. And then when the Wii was a thing, and one of the cool things about the Wii is the Nintendo shop where you can download old Nintendo games, and they were playing the Mario Brothers game for the Wii, so they got four people co-op, and they're hopping all around and saving and stuff like that. So I downloaded the original Mario Brothers, and I'm playing it. And it's like, how many people? It's like, no, you have to wait your turn. Like, what do you mean? And it's like, so how do you save it? It's like, you don't save it. Well, why can't I play now? Like, no, you have to wait till I die. And then they're like, how? I was like, it was all we had. This was,
Dude, I remember the old ColecoVision with Pong and the light gun.
Oh yeah.
I remember playing war games on ColecoVision because you had the number pad. All that.
Burger Time was my ColecoVision game.
Oh, Burger Time, yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun one for sure.
But again, it's one of those things too that I'll walk through the room and my kids are on the PlayStation 5, which if you would have shown 12-year-old Derek a PlayStation 5, I would have probably thrown it in the yard and burned it for being witchcraft. But they're in there playing like Minecraft, and they're playing these 8-bit emulated games and stuff like that. And it's like, why are you using that for the? Well, it's fun. Right. It's like, yeah, it was all. So
absolutely, yeah, it was. Again, it was. I mean, we grew up during the dawn of video games, essentially, right? And then. So we know where it started. It was very different back then. But, again, it's evolved from probably frustration of video game players like myself who are like absolutely sucked as kids and couldn't get past level 1 on damn Mario Brothers. It's like, oh, now we can save it and we can do this and we can do that. And you get unlimited times because it's frustrating as a kid. I remember playing.
Well, now, too, when you get stuck, you go, okay, let me pause the game here. You look at how do you get past. You watch the video, you pause the video, you go do that, you pause your game, you come back and unpause the video. I'm good, I got it.
Yep.
Well, do you remember paying the extra $8 to get the gamer guide?
Yep.
For a game.
But I remember going through some million, flipping through the gamer's guide and reading the spots I needed and putting it back.
Yeah. Trying to memorize it. It's in the store. Sneak in a.
Well,
it's the Oregon Trail, the original Oregon Trail.
Oh yeah,
like that.
Died of dysentery more times than I can remember.
Yeah. So I went to a poor inner city school, so we didn't have computers. I think our computer lab had the TRS-80 computer, black and white, and you would have to give the teacher some money to buy the 5 1/4-inch floppy disk that you needed to save your programs in BASIC on. And in order to save money, you would line up the little circle on the disk with the hole and did a hole punch so you could use both sides of the disk.
Yep.
And they had in the computer lab only had one Apple II for the advanced class to use. So it was all. But go back to the idea that because of what we had and what we had to go through and how we really had to use our imagination to fill in a lot of details. I think there's it's not the word I'm grateful, but I think there's this expectation that when they do something with properties now, that it needs to be that it's not living up to our idea of what it should be. And so I know, Lou, you haven't seen the Masters of the Universe movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Don't spoil it. So don't spoil it by letting you know that Man-at-Arms dies in the first 5 minutes. So don't do that. So no. Winford, Chris, have y'all seen it yet?
No.
Okay, so I was kind of just a little bit older when Masters of the Universe came out. And I was already well invested into Star Wars and G.I. Joe, so the figures did not scale.
He-Man come out before G.I. Joe? I think it did.
No?
He-Man
was 84, 83, 84. G.I. Joe was 82.
82, yeah.
A Real American Hero. They were close.
Yes, I was well invested, and the cartoon came on at like 6 o'clock in the morning when I was already getting ready for school. So, whereas the G.I. Joe cartoon came on in the afternoons after school. So
after you get out of school, you had just enough time to make
and I did see it, and it was silly. Orca was really silly. That was but I know a lot of people did it, and so when this movie came out, you've already seen online, that a lot of folks that are our generation have just really raked that thing over the coals on it, and I went and saw it as something that's not, I know, because of who I am and the culture, I know about it. And I know some things about the characters. I always thought Man at Arms was cool and Trap Jaw was really cool. But I wasn't like steeped in it where it was like, that's my forte. And so overall, I thought it was an enjoyable movie. There was some, editing problems in it. And they really did well with what was really silly material, but I think that a lot of the complaints I've been seeing is people are wanting this some sort of cross, that it should be some sort of cross between Conan and Excalibur. Level of
wow. Excalibur was a dark movie.
Oh,
right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. How it comes back to how do you want your film to be, or it's a kid's show, right? Do we want it to be super serious, super grounded, super down to earth, or do we want it to be fun?
Yeah.
One of my friends is a really big He-Man fan, and he thought it did justice to it. Like he said, enjoyable. He thought it did justice, and he said, there's things he would have changed, but he said overall it was an enjoyable movie. And he said he liked how they brought in some of the classic like hints in lore and humor to the movie.
Yeah.
And
but I assume T-Law is not Man of Arms' daughter anymore.
I don't know. Don't tell me. Shh.
Well, and in some of the lore, since the first cartoon, they have changed that relationship where she was like adopted by Man at Arms and it wasn't his biological daughter. So it did kind of play into some of that still, depending on which version of the lore you're actually using.
Yeah. And but it was better than the 1980s He-Man movie with Dolph Lundgren.
Well, that
was one of the things when it
pretty low bar though.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things that when I saw that, I didn't like that movie. I thought it was horrible. But again, this was back before we knew all the stuff. So when you find out why the movie was the way it is,
sure,
make a story behind that.
Right, they ran out of money eventually.
No, it was originally, so somebody had been trying to shop a Jack Kirby Fourth World script around with Darkseid and Highfather and Orion and that whole the Jack Kirby Fourth World that DC was doing for a while. And of course that, if you know anything about that property, that's like, you want to try to make a movie out of that, that's kind of dense and weird type of stuff. And so then when they wanted to do a He-Man movie, basically the guy reworked the script into He-Man, which is why you have that stupid cosmic key thing, and Skeletor, wanting to undo things, and the focus for it being on Earth was a budget reason, but they had the one group of people, the Forever people that were on Earth. So when you look at it through the lens of this is a Darkseid versus Orion lens, the movie made sense. So over the years, now knowing that though, I've become a little bit less critical of the movie for what it was. But then again, that movie was far better than the cartoon. I don't know. I like the cartoon better than that movie myself personally. But and that kind of relates to G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra, because when the director was approached, he interjected a lot of ideas that he had for another movie idea into Rise of Cobra. The whole scene with those accelerator suits
was from
Yeah.
another project he was working on that got rejected. So he shoehorned that into G.I. Joe, essentially. Yeah, exactly. The accelerator suits were dumb, but you know, there's definitely a lot of that when you get the directors involved and give it to Hollywood to do that, and often it's something that's being reworked from something else, which is unfortunate when it's plays out the way He-Man did, and even the way Rise of Cobra did.
Interesting story about the He-Man movie was I rented that on VHS. My father told me I had to return it, so I took it to the store, put it on the counter, as you often did. And I guess somebody stole it from the counter, and my dad had to pay like $80 for that movie. And I mean, $80 back then, I don't know what that equates to today, but that was a lot of money.
Yeah, that was huge.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the crazy thing that back then that's what VHS. You can't even wrap your head around the fact that VHS was going to cost.
The of course paid more because I guess licensing or whatever, and renting them out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, but we also went and saw movies based on either the movie poster when you're standing out in front of the movie theater, and this looks interesting, or one trailer. There was like multiple trailers that dropped. No Super Bowl commercials and. You couldn't go online and watch these things. You had to make your choice on, a picture in a newspaper ad.
The newspaper.
Yeah. I think we sometimes forget some of the crap we had to wade through to find, some of the gems.
Oh yeah, and you
had the trailer, but a lot of times the only way to see the trailer was to go see a movie, and that just happened to be the trailer played before that movie you were watching.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, especially necessarily like, here's a commercial break with 15 movie trailers in it.
Yeah.
You didn't have that.
But now you get the entire plot of Supergirl, online before it even, having people coming out of the theater, going in spoilers.
Well, I will say to that, if you go back and watch some of the old trailers in the 80s for some of the big movies, they gave away a lot more in the trailers back then than we do now. That whole thing of holding things back is almost kind of newish. If you go back and watch some of the Back to the Future trailers and some of the other big movies, there was a lot shown, a lot. Star Wars being the exception with things like Yoda. He wanted to keep Yoda secret. He wanted to keep Jabba the Hutt secret, and he wanted to keep the Ewoks secret. So you didn't see that in the beginning of those. And George was one of the few, I think, that really wanted to keep things really close to the chest, because a lot of them it showed a lot. It almost gave you the entire plot, some of these trailers back then, where now it's all about being as secretive as possible.
Yeah,
I don't know which is better. I couldn't tell you, but it's
like you're saying, Lucas was always protective of his properties. It's like even when they did the prequels, he was telling theaters, okay, look, I sent you 5 of the copies of this poster. If I do not get all 5 of them back, you won't get the next one.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had to manage where, a lot of times those movie theaters, that movie's done, they'll pull the poster and it just goes in a bin over in the corner, and the employees go through them and take the posters home.
Mm-hmm.
Or they go in the dumpster.
Yeah. And that's why if you can get a hold of those posters, they're highly collectible and valuable, because our stuff was like none of this stuff, like all the stuff on the shelf behind me, all the Retro Joe stuff, that stuff wasn't meant to last. They would turn it out, it was meant to be played with, and they didn't like limit the number of stuff they put out. That stuff was plentiful back in the day, but now because of over time it's scarce, and now we have this thing where the collecting sphere, how they do this thing where everything's limited editions and limited runs, and to try to drive the secondary market up on stuff, and which I think some things that people ask for on the secondary market for stuff that just came out is crazy.
Yeah, I showed my son pictures of like what department store toy sections look like when we were kids, and it blew his mind how much of the same products and stuff like that. He says, he said, like the closest thing he's ever seen to that was like maybe like opening like the start of like the Star Wars movies or whatever, where Walmart would do like a section. Like that's the closest he ever saw to anything like that. And like they had a whole aisle dedicated to like G.I. Joe, a whole aisle for Star Wars. You know, it's not like just one little 4-peg section. It was the entire aisle.
Yeah.
And they were stacked, you know, like the boxes were
and it
stacked.
wasn't a special day, it was just Tuesday.
Yeah.
Floor to ceiling.
It was every day.
They had this idea that, like I said, if you were a kid and you had $5 of birthday money or $20, there was something at the price point for you. You could walk out of the store with something in that IP that worked with everything else in the IP. So if you couldn't afford a Sky Striker, you could afford a Skyhawk. You know, you could, and they work right beside each other. If you couldn't afford, the whale, you could buy Torpedo. You could get a diver. It's like there was no reason for you to not walk out of the store empty-handed.
Or you can buy one of those accessory packs with extra guns and helmets and stuff like that.
Because we lost them. I had a lot of toys with different colored guns. It was
like Star Wars had those mission packs or whatever. Like they came with like the oxygen masks and the grappling hook and all. I had all that stuff.
I wanted those so bad too.
Oh, those were fun, man! I remember getting it. I wanted it so bad for the Yoda backpack, right? That Luke had, and then the gas masks for Han and Leia, because I loved that scene as a kid.
I had that as the years went on.
What was that, Winford?
I said I had those gas masks and stuff, and as the years went on, we've all heard Bobby talking about the plasticizer and stuff working out of them. They got so nasty and gummy and greasy. It's like you threw it away because it was gross to touch it.
Yep.
But that's I ate those kind of things up. Accessory packs and gear packs and stuff like that. Which is why this isn't a commercial, but this is why this kind of stuff. I love this kind of stuff right here because that's what again filling. It was about filling out the gaps in the world. But it's I apologize. My brain's all mushy right now, so it's
you're good, brother.
So I'm losing track, and that's it. And I will say that's one thing that concerns me because I do pride myself on my memory and remembering things, and especially all these little obscure things. I almost feel like it's my mission to share that stuff.
Create that little time capsule
with folks. Just so that they can have that aha moment, like when I found out about the reason why the '85 He-Man movie was so horrible because that's not what it was supposed to be. But then I know that because I've read the comics of Fourth World, so I knew all these little details that adds flavor to stuff, and I kind of get frustrated a little bit when people flub. So one thing is I love watching Destro as my spirit animal. He does an amazing job and gets some great details, and then he'll like get something completely to me that's simple wrong, and it drives me nuts. I'm sure on the screen. It almost feels like he's the kind of guy that can like those guys that can resort pi out to 1,000 digits, but then can't make change for 20.
Yeah,
it kind of feels like that sometimes. But then as I'm getting older, and that's. But that's the thing too is when I do say something wrong or get a detail wrong based on what I knew at the time, and people call me out, I'm okay with that because I know I'm not the end all be all. But everybody seems now they have to be an expert, and they can't be questioned because the internet has turned people into experts without experience.
Right, yeah. Well, I tell you, there's so many stories out there. I don't claim to be an expert on any of it because. I'm going like you're saying. I'm going off my memory. I'm going off things I've read. If I've read something that's inaccurate information, well, that's the information that got plugged into my head. So I was told wrong. So I'm spewing it out again. So telephone game. That's fun. We're not. That's why like this kind of stuff for me. It's not about perfection necessarily. I enjoy the fact I love talking with like you guys and other people that we've talked to that so see everybody else's memory of those days. And it's amazing to see the similarities between some of our memories and also the differences, because there's both as you go around to different people. And it's exciting to see that stuff and see that we all kind of grew up on the same thing, but maybe we saw it differently. Yeah. I know people have talked about watching G.I. Joe on Saturday mornings. I'm like, it wasn't on Saturday mornings for me. Yeah. I had it Monday through Friday, I think, right after school. That's the way I watched it. But there were people that their market was doing it on Saturday morning. So,
well, and that was the other thing too, is that a lot of people don't remember the days of regional television programming.
Mm-hmm.
Like we didn't have Robotech shown on TV where I lived. That every year we'd go out to Texas for a thing, and I used to love it because I would get to watch Robotech and Galaxy Rangers and stuff like the things that weren't showing here in my area. And there's some people got exposed to certain things, and regionally, things would go. Some folks got toys we never saw on the shelf here, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the thing. But now everything you can get, shoot, we're getting the first when I was stationed in Japan. That place blew my brain out when I went to a toy store in Japan. back in the mid 90s, about what all they have, and none of that stuff had hit. We've gotten trickles, but now you can go online, you can order that stuff. There's no barrier,
right
anymore. So, but I guess the total point I'm making is that that we grew up in a great time, but I think things are pretty good now too with what we have available to us, and I think we tend to either compare them to the past too much, to an idealized past, and not happy because things aren't the way we think they should be now. The thing, so that's why I always try to look at the good and the bad of things that I have. So because it seems like right now, and I think social media and YouTube kind of amplifies that a little bit. You either have to be 100% for something or 100% against something. And my life experience has been everything's always somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, 100%. That's all. I'm down with that. 100%. That's exactly it. I don't feel I have to hate or love anything. And it's an ebb and flow. I like one thing, didn't like the other one, and so on and so forth. I'm with you on that. I think there's definitely extremes on both sides. Not everything is all sunshine and rainbows, but not everything is as glum as we may say it is.
Super 7 is kind of like in that area for me. Like,
kick him out. No, I'm just kidding.
Like the reaction figures. I'm not into the reaction figures at all.
Yeah.
But they do come out like for me, like I'm sure you guys too, like Micronauts were a big thing for me. But nobody's really remade Micronauts. There is a couple on Big Bad Toy Store right now. But Super 7 made some Micronauts, of course, in their reaction line, but they're nothing like the original Micronauts, more like their regular figures. And it's cool that people are getting exposed to it, but it's not for me, like I want the
originals,
silver piece for the chest, and I would wear that as a ring, and and different stuff like that, and like the coffin, the sarcophaguses they came with, and it's funny too, like my memory, like there was also this die-cast line that was kind of like Micronauts, and I always thought it was was Micronauts, but I found out recently it's not. So like I was like, oh, okay. I always thought it was Micronauts, but there's this Facebook page that I was telling Lou about this that posts like pictures of the catalogs and things like that, and it's crazy like how they tell you like what year it was, what catalog it was. It's just crazy the stuff that they released every year, and like I was like, yeah, I had that, it's and I forgot, and some of the stuff I was like, oh my god, I had that. I completely forgot about that. Like the Micronauts Dragonfly thing, remember that?
Yeah.
I had that thing. I remember it, but I didn't remember it to the detail. And there was so much stuff going on that toy. I was like, oh my god, I remember that, and taking it apart and putting the tail on the head, and like, that page, I actually reached out to them to see if we could use their like pictures and stuff from their website, and they didn't respond. So we'll see.
Hot rods. Here's Cadillac. 2 sections you got to look at.
Yeah.
Toys first, then the
Yeah.
women's underwear.
There was 3 sections for me.
Okay.
I would just add in the sports clothing.
Okay.
section.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, man, you know.
I would remember when they put out the Christmas wish book for toys, and I would sit there and just look at that for hours, and then it would disappear, and my parents would gaslight me that we don't know what happened to it. You know, it was because it was because they were trying to manage my expectations.
Yeah,
is what it was. Even though I knew the reality that I was not going to get everything in there, and I was going to be grateful for what I got. But,
I would analyze that thing so hard. Like I would look at like every detail, every figure, try to figure out how it was different than what we had, how this was new, and
Mm-hmm.
I really think those catalogs like what drove my passion for toys and wanting to create toys, because I wanted to be a toy designer at one point.
Did you really? Okay.
Yeah. So it's I would draw toys and stuff and like make my like. I would spend a lot of time drawing toys, and it wasn't like a cartoon or whatever. It was actually toys, like joints and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So did you do a lot of kit bashing of toys?
Yeah, I did.
Especially once you figured out G.I. Joe could come apart.
Yeah, yeah. We would do all kinds of stuff to G.I. Joe. We like cut their arms off and mold stuff onto their arms and stuff like that.
Yeah. I didn't do the cutting of anything. I wanted to make sure that if I need
the ones that the thumbs broke off, you had to do something with it. So.
Well, yeah, you're right.
Or they break
another story, yeah.
Oh,
another story about the like figures, like Hot Rod mentioned earlier about those 2 Cobra Troopers. This is a funny thing that my grandmother, when I was like 15 or 16, she said, "I found one of your army men." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And apparently, I didn't remember this, but the little green army men. She told me that when I was a little kid, when they died, I buried them. And it's like for years, she was finding army men in like the banners and stuff like that.
They never my Canon R2D2 and never found it.
Never used them again.
It's funny. So I've been, like I said, I've been doing a lot of retro Joe collecting, mainly aircraft. And I bought something off of Macari, and the guy threw in this when he shipped it. It's when they did the when they ended the line, and then in '97 they came out and they were just, as the Toys R Us, they were just reproducing the old figures again, but with different colors. Is that it had this in with it? It's the Zap. Did you see what some kid did with it?
He turned them green. What we got here?
They took a marker and put it on it, which would normally drive me nuts even as a kid, because I didn't do that because I knew there's no replacements for this stuff.
Right.
But just to get a figure that some kid played with, back when this came out, back when I was actually turning into a collector, and I wanted things that looked nice. We just needed, some kid had a lot of fun with this, where they shipped it with whatever it is I got. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was super protective of my toys. Like I would go over to like a friend's house, and I started using model paint and putting dots in the peg holes, because I wanted to make sure I got my figure back.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to make sure these were my stormtroopers. That was my Luke Skywalker, my small head hand, big head hand. I would count the weapons before I left. I was so protective of those toys.
That could cause a neighborhood problem.
Yeah.
When you went home and your parents, they spent that $2 to get you that figure, and Johnny stole it, and that was,
oh yeah,
your kid stole.
I remember I had the Mego Batman, and I brought it in for show and tell, and this was like preschool. All right, I was in preschool, not even kindergarten yet. And when it came time to leave, because I loved that Batman, that was my favorite thing in the world that I had at that point in my life. And I showed it off and everything else. And then when it came time for parents come to get us all, my Batman was gone. Couldn't find it anywhere. And I was about ready to lose my shit at what, 4 years old or however old I was. And so then there was this other kid who out of nowhere said, "Don't look in my cubby. It's not in there." Guess where he was? And of course, little kids, I wanted to pounce on him. Yeah, I wanted to pounce on him, and Mom cooled me on and said, "Oh no, he probably wanted it because he thought it was neat. He was, it calmed the situation, but man, I was about ready to lose it. I was not going home without my Batman. So yeah, that could have been quite the incident for sure.
You're talking about using our imagination more. Like, I don't know if you guys did the same thing or not, but because we didn't have Bruce Wayne with Mego Bruce Wayne and Mego Dick Grayson, like, I just flipped their capes over the front of them, and that's when it was Bruce Wayne.
That makes sense. All right, we got to do what we got to do.
You still have the cowl, but cape in the front, Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne.
Well, I think it's kind of like why I gravitated more to, like in the Star Wars, the background characters. And because they could be anybody. I mean, some of them could be me. At a Rebel Trooper, that was me. I was interacting with JoJo and Cobra figures. In troop building, it was I kind of gravitated more towards those characters because they could be anybody I wanted them to be and do anything. And I think it was just kind of my play pattern was that Luke Skywalker had to be Luke Skywalker. There was a certain way his character acted. There was a certain way Snake Eyes acted, and Optimus Prime and all those guys happened. But with the other ones, they could do whatever, be free with it. Like I said, I think that imagination was a big thing, and that's kind of like why I pursue this of wanting to make things fit. That's why I'm doing that Skyhawk project. I love that Skyhawk. I've tracked down everything except the 2 internationals and the Dreadnought one. And that's because I don't have the money people are asking for that. And I was like, well, this is a vehicle that would never function in real life.
Right.
That thing would, but it was like, but if it did, what would have to be? And I use my my military background and my aircraft knowledge, and good old fashioned storytelling to kind of make a plausible, reason, because that's what we did as kids. Part of it, there was suspension of disbelief, but in my world, these things had to have a purpose and they had to work. And then now knowing like how much thought these guys put behind this stuff, it was and like I said, that would just be that's kind of the my play pattern as a kid. So
yeah, I get that. I did to a fair degree a lot of that as a kid. I liked reading all the blueprints with the GI Joes and trying to get the understanding of how it worked type thing. And again, I'd always bring it over to my dad. Dad, is this real? Well, it's kind of based on real thing, but it's not really. I was always obsessed with that. So
I would use the file card to choose people for missions.
I did that before. Yeah. You'd have them. Yeah, I'd have them stacked, big rubber band around them all, and yep.
Well, guys, it's normally I do this for about an hour. We've been going about an hour and a half, and I know, and a lot of it's because I know the space on YouTube is pretty crowded right now, and plus I'm always cognizant of people's time. I always think time is probably one of the most precious things that we have. People told me one time that time is money, and I was like, well, actually, it's not. I said, because when I run out of money, I just I'll work, or I'll sell some stuff off, and I can get money, but when I run out of time, I can't get that back. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to spend with me, and I would like to, we can talk online and get back together again. But I would like to do something again where we actually pick a topic of some obscure thing, like I floated, playing outside, some of the things we had to do for that, or some of these more forgotten toy lines that we used to have, and talk a little bit more deep in that, kind of bring the knowledge to of these things that people may not know about or have forgotten, and something stuff that you can't easily Google, to find the answer, and basically because things we had experience with, and just the experience of going to not just toys but movies and music and just the media and all these things that we don't do anymore. So I would love to explore maybe getting back together at some point and doing something like that if y'all are up to it.
Yeah, I'm definitely down.
Yeah.
And since this is being done on a live stream, that will be on replay. That was a binding contract. So,
perpetuity.
You son of a bitch.
So Winford, you got anything going on coming up? I know you've been hitting Instagram pretty hard. And
yeah, well, I will be on Figure Fight Club tomorrow night on open mic night as usual. Gonna be slim pickings because I ain't bought nothing in like 2 weeks.
I'm hoping my Valverse order will be here. It got delayed in shipping, coming out. I had to email them, and then they finally said, okay, it went out. And then UPS was the post office was to deliver it today, and it's still sitting at the regional facility. I have my Black Series.
Even get me started on the post office.
Yeah. So mine's kind of slim. So
yeah.
Like I said, I'll be on open mic night tomorrow night. You'll find me poking around in various chats here, there, and everywhere. You can always find me on Instagram at Magna_figure_photos. Posting toy photography. Actually, now 4 days a week because I'm doing Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday for me, and then on Saturdays I'm in a collab with a bunch of guys from Savage Crucible, including Lucifer right there, and that gets posted on Saturday.
Okay. So with that, let's segue into Lou since you pointed at him.
Yeah, you guys know you can find me on Figure Fight Club almost every damn day of the week these days. Yeah. It's grown. It's grown. So yeah, tomorrow night, 8 p.m., the open mic night, our typical Tuesday open mic night. It's going to be a Joe Fest aftermath. So I hope Chris shows up and comes and hangs out with us too, because we got a lot. Excellent. We got a lot to talk about. We got a lot of stuff to show off. I spent insane amounts of money. I'd regret it. I should regret it, but I don't. Anyway, I had a lot of fun. So anyway, so it's going to be that Tuesday night. Thursday night is Taking the Shot toy photography show. Yeah. This week our guest is Complete Carnage Photos, who does a lot of G.I. Joe photography. He's just got awesome catalog of G.I. Joe photography. I really enjoy his stuff. We're going to be digging in with him, looking over some of his work and just kind of getting to know him. Looking forward to that. My guest co-host is Khalil from Caster's Corner. It's going to be a lot of fun. Friday night, and I should have been more prepared, but I don't remember who our guest is, but 9 p.m. is Plastic Journey. I should have had that. I don't have that, but yeah, Plastic Journey Friday night. We've got some guest. Let me look for it. While I'm looking for it, I'll stall. Saturday night at 11 p.m. on Talib 1980_collects. We've got Men on Film. We're discussing film. It's basically we don't have the theme yet. We're working on that. That's coming soon. We always put a vote up for the chat to vote on in the on YouTube, and then we have an internal vote as well. It's just a panel. A bunch of us get together and discuss movies. It's a tournament style, best of or worst of or whatever it may be. So come check that out. I'm still stalling so I can remember who.
I would love to do that one, be on that show, because I obviously have a lot of movie knowledge, because especially when I was in the Marine Corps, we had a lot of time to watch a lot of movies. I basically watched everything that was in the base video store at one point. So, but I think it's because Talib, his work schedule, is you guys do it, I'm already out by
we are late.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, because it starts like 11 o'clock Eastern. So
I mean, I would have to plan a week. I'd have to plan a week to be keep my schedule to be on that. So
it takes some prep to do that for sure. Yeah, that's It is late. It does go late, and that is with it to coincide with Talib's work schedule for sure. Yeah, but then also you can always find me on Instagram, Lucidebass 3. I do toy photography. I've been doing more lately because I've just been having a good time doing it. So, and then having more time to do it somehow. I don't understand how that works, but we're doing that. But that's it for me. Yeah, that's it. Come see me. Come hang out.
All right.
We'll be around.
Chris,
I appreciate you having us on.
What you got? Anything that's besides the awesome? And I'm not glazing you, but I really enjoy your product. And I tell you, one of the things. Here's the thing I like most about it is that whenever I get a box from you, and I know you're not doing it just for me, is you put that handwritten card thanking people for buying that, and I think that is excellent. But
it's funny, like so many people said that at Joe Fest, and I thought myself, well, like sometimes I do write if I know who you are, if you buy certain things, I'll kind of make a comment about what you're buying. Like if you buy the prison table, I was like, make sure you're using metal trays or something. Like, I'll throw out something. But like a lot of times I told him, I said, I get lazy sometimes and just say, thanks again, enjoy. Like that's probably what it used to be. I used to try to write something all the time.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming sometimes how much work it's a lot of work, putting the stuff together, wrapping it. The tagline on my logo says design, print, play. It's also package. It's a take photos. It's a lot of stuff now. So
a lot of people realize when you own a small business, you don't really own the business; it owns you.
Yeah.
So.
But like Joe Fest, like makes it all worth it for the most part. Because I don't know if you saw my thank you or not for Joe Fest today, but I met so many people, and like the thing I really like is hearing people's just like the plastic journey thing. Hearing people's stories about collecting and having kids ask me about modeling and how I made things. And I had a father-son pair show me using some of my stuff, making like videos and stuff like that. And it's awesome, and hearing people how they add my stuff to their collection and things like that. And it's I like that better than the money, like that's, if I could do it for free, I wouldn't do, I might, just to get the feedback, and because it's kind of like love. And I've told people this before. These are like my little paintings, my art that's in your house now. There's a lot of work went into that.
Yeah.
Don't just create together or buy a file from somebody else and print it. I do testing and print it and change things, and you're often getting like the third or fourth version of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely reach out to you at some point in the future to have you on, just me and you to talk about your stuff and your process on it, because I'm a big fan. I love it. I'm very picky where I spend my money. So I don't buy everything that comes out, but I try to hit you up whenever I can with stuff. And I appreciate that. So is there anything you've been doing a lot of new products, and so is there anything you can share with us that's coming down the pipe? Or
getting ready for Joe Fest has been taking up a majority of my time. So I've only been releasing things that I have things that I haven't even finished from a year ago. For instance, those I just released. I don't know if you guys saw the post about the barriers, like the traffic barriers and the concrete barriers. I did that a year ago, and I was finally getting around to releasing them because I actually made them for a Checkpoint Alpha that I was working on.
Oh,
people released Checkpoint Alpha around the same time, so I kind of put it on the side because I was doing mine a little bit differently, but there were so many people doing it that I was like, I'm not going to do this right now. But the barriers were part of it. And I've been working on some garage and shop related stuff. And so I was going to kind of release those around the week following, but Gridiron kind of released theirs. So I just went ahead and released them. But I do have a lot of things that are in the works, for my walls, there's a roll up door. There's, at Joe Fest, I had it in my diorama. There's also armory walls that kind of part of my wall system where it's the whole wall is pegs in it. and you can put racks on it and mount helmets and stuff like that. There's also like an air compressor that it's going to come out in the next week or so for a garage, because I have customers like they build like scale die cast garages and for die cast cars and stuff like that. So I make a lot of times that's why my garage stuff, that's where it comes from, is for those people.
And that's you're expanding a little bit into Star Wars too.
Yep. I'm working on Star Wars stuff a little bit more, but really, like, like there's so many people doing Star Wars stuff. It's more or less I'm doing it for certain people that I know and myself. So I'm not diving into the deep end with it because there's so many people doing it. Okay. But I think mine are a little bit better than some other people's. As far as like quality, like as far as like the way it looks, like there's definitely a difference. Like I was looked at a couple people's booths at Joe Fest, not to criticize them, but like the quality on their prints weren't that great. But one of the things, like a lot of people ask me about the quality of my prints. Why are they? Because everybody asks, like, what do you do to them after you print them? I was like, nothing. Like I just print them. I might hit them with a flame to get the extra little bits off. I print. The benefit of doing this as a business, I print so much that I'm constantly tweaking my printers, and they just keep getting better and better and better. And I think that's why my prints look so well, because I print so much. Pretty much, it's like it's like repetitive things. You get better and better at the more you do it.
Absolutely.
There's definitely, like I said, you can. A lot of times you can look at something, just tell it's 3D printed, and I did, a couple, I think you saw some of my reviews where, there's certain things with 3D printing you can't get around.
Yep.
Like, like some of the texturing, but how you've been able to put all that texturing in places where you don't notice it, like on the bottoms or on the inside stuff, but everything else is just so clean. It's just, it's amazing. So,
Thank you.
Definitely be ordering more stuff from you. And then with that, so normally, I'm on Figure Fight Club on Tuesdays. I missed last week because I had some surgery, and I was worn out after that. And then of course on every once in a while I'll drop some stuff on YouTube. I've been really doing a lot of Instagram lately. Just as I buy stuff, I snap photos of it. Every Sunday I call that, I've been calling that the Lord Scale Day, because I'm trying to focus on some 3 3/4 inch 1/18 scale stuff, and that was one of the things with the Skyhawk project I keep talking about. I wanted to do like a YouTube documentary, like there's a YouTube channel I called Dark Skies that talks about like Cold War aircraft. It's a very documentary style thing, but I don't have the talent to do that, or the time to sit there and learn how to do it. Like you saw my intro, this thing, that's the I do the bare minimum for YouTube. So I figure if I could take some pictures of the stuff and then put out the lore story.
Well, if you want some graphics and stuff like that, let me know. I'm pretty good with that.
We can talk. Definitely. Thank you. I appreciate it. So with that, again, I don't, the intro was hard enough for me to do, so I don't do an outro. Normally in my show, I do a moment called Something to Think About, where I say something very profound to end the show, but I'm not going to do that with this one. So how I normally end my stream, for those of you that have watched, for the 6 of you that have watched the replay, I do it just by pressing a button and ending the stream. And so that's what I'm going to do right now. So thank you guys for being here, and I'm going to press the button and end the stream.
Thank you.